Hey guys, Wandering Shell here, and today I'm going to be painting Wasp, as you see here, and I'm going to do a voiceover, so this is the first time ever doing a voiceover. Bear with me. Wasp is here, and from Marvel United. It's one of the newer games that came out. And first off, I'm gonna start with black because majority of her outfit is black, or almost kind of like a dark blue, almost gray. But unfortunately, I don't have that. And I was looking up different pictures of her, and I've seen a lot of ones with the black ink. So I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. Also, I started with the dice because I thought it would be easy enough since this is my first time painting in front of a camera and I wasn't too sure about it. So I wanted to do something with it, testing it out with the dice. And I noticed with some of the dice was a lot of people pick red, and I chose a white die. Kind of is a difference between her black outfit versus the white dye. So right now this is me starting to paint her. Obviously I fast forward a lot of this. And bear with me because again, I don't know how to paint with a camera. So a lot of it will go off camera sometimes. Like right now. I did a lot of these where I was way off camera, so I had to get rid of it. And I'm speeding up this because it's very boring. Even I'm bored of this, watching this. And of course, gotta be very careful of the gluteus maximus or the butt. She also has a lot of detailing. There's pieces where there's like the yellow or the gold, like a stripe. You'll see it in the cartoon image. She has a lot more detail compared to her her figure, her model, I should say. So unfortunately, when I was painting this, I couldn't see some of the detailing until I started painting over it with the black. And I was like, oh no. But luckily enough, with with Army Painter paints, they're really good to go back over, especially the black one. I was very surprised that you can actually paint over the black paint too. See, right there, I messed up, and there was a section where it should have been painted a different color, and excuse me, and not just the black. There were so many little sections that I had to be so for it. Of course, I picked the tiniest character in the game. again, I'm terribly sorry that I went off camera from this. I am so sorry that I'm horrible at the camera angles. I had to skip a lot of sections of that. And I'm also looking at this as what else I missed on the black, because there's so many little sections. And I always revert back to the image that's right behind to the left. I kept using that as a reference because it is from the game, and I wanted to be close enough to the game's picture as best as I could, but make it my own little uniqueness. So now I changed it up. So a lot of the images that I found, they used yellow as the yellow part of her costume. But because of the majority of it was the black, I thought gold might be a really good option, because wasps have that yellow gold look to them, like actual wasps. So I wanted to make something very similar to that, having that black and gold look to her. Made her kind of like a special edition looking to her. Made it nice. And the gold really pops with the black and vice versa. So you'll see where I finished with all the gold, where I'm like, wow, this is really good. And I stop for a second to take a look. Of course, I messed up a few parts of her because, again, I'm not used to videotaping with the camera. So it was a lot of trying to get used to doing it. And I think I did pretty good with that part on the camera for the most part. But anyway, so I started working more and more on the gold part of her outfit and seeing my giant thumb in the way. Trying to figure out where else I'm missing gold, and again, her outfit, the images showed a lot of detailing, but her actual model really didn't have a whole lot, but it had thin sections where I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? And how to get to it, because some of it was like underneath her arm or over, or even be like, honestly, between her legs. I couldn't figure out which section was for, what part of it was going to be the gold and what part was going to be the black. So at this point, I just painted it gold just to see what it would look like. And then you'll see in the final one where I'm like, I think this will be good? Question mark. So I kind of left it. But like near her ankles and stuff, it had like the, like right here, it had like those sections, those little thin sections where I'm like, oh, gotta be very careful with it. So using a thin tip brush would help that. Either if you're using a thin tip brush, or one of those cycle brushes where it's like literally a piece of hair that connects it, it's up to you, whatever you feel confident with it. I like using the thin tip brushes because if I need to go thicker, I have that option to go thicker if I need to, or very thin. With the cycle brushes, you only have thin. There's no in-betweens or anything. So at this point, I'm working on her wings, and I noticed that it was a gradient of a bluish tint to it. So I wanted to keep a bluish gradient tint to it. Kind of matches it, and it makes it a little bit more dynamic. And me brushing it
me trying to do the gold, finish the arms on the gold arms, and literally the angles were terrible. I was putting this character up, down, over, sideways, trying to figure out what would be the good option to get it finished. And this is me finishing with the black, seeing if I missed any sections or I went over with the gold accidentally. See where I wasn't too sure, so I kind of did put it in the black, and it did come out pretty good, so I can't complain about it. Okay, so it was more finishing touches of the black to fill in where I missed, especially when I was doing the gold, like those little sections. And then her knees, in the image it looked like it was a silver, like she had like knee brace or something, so I kind of left that blank for the meantime, because I wasn't too sure if I should make it gold or the silver, so I kind of left it as is for now until I can always go back to it. So this is me still doing finishing touches of the black where the gold kind of took over. And what's nice about these paints, they can go back and forth. So, you know, it'd be a few layers, but these layers are good, if that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm doing, I guess it's her headphones or something, and I made that into the silver, because I think her chin strap thing was also silver, so I'm like, okay, what connects? And her neck piece is silver, so I was like, okay, so this whole little is like a mechanical piece. Because I was thinking of making it gold, but I feel like it was just too much gold for it. So it should be like a full gold and black Wasp. And I didn't like that because she's a human who is a different size. So I was like, okay, let's make it more mechanical, or machine-wise, I should say. Again, I'm so sorry about the camera. I tried to get rid of as much as I could with the not able to see what I'm painting sections, and I guess I missed a few. So then I put like a silver rim around the shoulder pads. But you'll notice later on, I actually changed it to black shoulder pads, because in the image, it was black shoulder pads, not gold. So, it's up to you on what you want her to look like, but I did a few variations of gold or black on her shoulder pads. And this section, what I'm doing her face, the one little section of her face, using Barbarian Flesh paint. And when you do the washes, the tones and stuff, use the flesh wash for her face portion, which will make it darker. Be forewarned, it will make it darker. So if you want to mix it with a lighter paint, like a white, or if you have a lighter color version of it, use that, because the flesh wash will darken the areas. Now I'm officially going to the wings, and the wings have this blue at the bottom, like the blue at the bottom, and gets lighter further out to a white. So I kind of wanted to keep it like that. And again, I'm so sorry about setting up the camera in horrible angles, but I tried to do the best I could. And usually I wait for the dry brushing towards the end, but I wanted to put something down so I know later on, like, hey, I need to do this section like this. And that's a good thing sometimes, where if you don't remember, especially when you're done painting for a day and you come back later on, you're like, what did I do? Well, it's good to have somewhat of an idea by painting it a certain way. Like, okay, I want to make this into a gradient, so I'm going to kind of make a small version of it on the thing itself. So I could come back later and going, okay, so this is the part where I have to dry brush it on. And as you can see, it did not want to work the way I wanted it. Like, visually, like, it looks fine, but it just wouldn't want to do what I wanted. And it happens. So I had to redo it put some white back on and start over. It's okay. These paints are very understanding of that, which is nice. And I even try to wet the brush a little bit to have that gradient. Now, this is the part where this is basically the next day, and I already finished dark toning her. Actually, I didn't dark tone. I used a soft tone because I wanted to keep the gold very bright. So I did that and the flesh wash where her mouth is. So right now, I didn't want to paint the actual eyes on her because some of the characters you can actually see their eyes. So I kept it as like a glass. And this section was very carefully trying to do her lips. So in the comics and stuff, you'll see it, like, artists will make it as the bottom lip as the lipstick. And that's what I tried to do. And now I'm going back again with the dry brushing. And I hate to tell you, but I love doing dry brushing. If I can make a character full of dry brush, I would. Because I feel like it gives it more texture, more depth when I dry brush. Because all the higher pieces will really pop more than you would think. Like, I don't know why these wings gave me such an issue. Usually it's never this bad. But I guess I think it's because I'm also nervous that I'm going to mess up on the camera. So it was kind of in between. Now I'm doing the bottom of the stand, and I'm so sorry, but I didn't realize I wasn't recording the bottom. You'll see later that I switched it to an actual bottom, but in the most part, I painted the bottom brown, like a dirt brown, because that's where she's at. And then I added, you'll see later on, I added like a light dry brush of white to pop this, make the pebbles a little more up. I was thinking of making it darker, but I like the lighter colors. And then I tried to dry brush a little bit on the dye to make it a little weathered. It's been on the ground for a while. Or like, somebody dropped it, of course, or whatever. Because she's just kind of floating in front of it. And it was kind of weird to me. Like, she's not even like on top of it or anything. No, she's next to it. But she's attached to it. So I'm like, this is really weird combo. But it is what it is. So I did a quick little dry brush on it, on the dye, and made put some more white to it so it just looks dirty. A little bit more touch-ups on the dye because I feel like Wasp is pretty much done. It's just everything else around her just needs to be touched up and fixed, and I accidentally put a paint on her. But what's nice about these paints, once you do a tone, it's on there. And, if you get a new paint on it, you can actually wipe it off a little bit. And even the varnishes, So when you're done, overall done with your painting and stuff, there we go. When you're overdone, you're completely done with your paints, and you're like, okay, this is good. This is where I want to end. You can actually make get a gloss. You put a gloss on it, or a no gloss varnish on it to keep it so the paint doesn't smear or chip off later on, especially if you don't have cases for them to keep them safe, or if you're actually going to use it for games. You want to keep them safe. So using a finish on it keeps the model safer. And what I did was I made majority of her as a gloss tone, except her skin, obviously, because that's not glossy, but most of her outfit is. And so I kind of kept that, and then I kept it as is. And there we go. There's the finished product. I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.